You are here because something isn't working. Maybe you're wrestling your calendar every week, promising yourself that this will finally be the month you get it together. Or maybe you're simply tired of the flicker of anxiety whenever someone mentions deadlines, organization, or goals. If you've tried and failed to change your life through willpower, you already know the pain of collapse and the frustration of watching your best intentions dissolve under the onslaught of the day. The world is filled with advice to try harder, want it more, and just get organized. But this book takes a different stand. Your life is not missing motivation. It is missing systems. Most people spend their days paying a silent price for chaos, wasted hours, lost money, missed opportunities, and the slow leak of confidence that comes from letting yourself down. This invisible surcharge, what I call the chaos tax, turns goals into ghosts and saps the joy from your accomplishments. The diagnosis isn't laziness or character flaw. It's a lack of deliberate design. It's living each day run by default settings that were created to serve someone else's agenda, not your own dreams. Create Systems is a blueprint for reclaiming that agenda. It is not interested in making you work harder, only in making you work reliably. Here, you will find a new operating system for your life, one that replaces hope and willpower with structures you can trust on your worst days, not just your best moods. You'll learn to guard your attention from the noise engineered to hijack it, architect time so that priorities aren't lost to busy work, and anchor your actions to a vision of yourself that is both bold and believable. You'll stop lurching between sprints and crashes, and instead build steady, automated habits that compound over time. You'll document your workflows so your mind is free to focus, not cluttered by forgotten details. You'll automate your finances and your learning so that wealth and skill building become engines, not chores. With these systems in place, the cycle of false starts, self-blame, and shrunken ambition ends. You will break free from the loop of restarting, as each habit and workflow becomes a brick in the foundation of your new identity, one that can withstand the storms of annual chaos and daily distraction. This is not a collection of hacks. It is a total architecture for reliable, high-performance living. At the end of each page, you will not find guilt, but proof. Proof that change stacks up through design, not desire. That your life can be transformed not through overhauls, but through smart, compounding micro-tweaks. That control, clarity, and quiet confidence are byproducts of the systems you choose to install. If you have ever felt overwhelmed or secretly afraid that your goals are out of reach, know this: you are not the problem. You have just been running a talented mind on legacy software. This book is your manual for the upgrade. Turn the page. Let's begin building a life you can trust. Chapter 1: System Shock. You are not lazy. You are not broken. You are not lacking in potential. But if you are holding this book, you are likely tired of feeling like you are constantly falling behind, despite your best intentions. You have big goals and a genuine desire to achieve them, yet your daily reality feels like a series of frantic reactions rather than a calculated march toward victory. The gap between what you know you can do and what you are actually doing is widening every year, and that gap is painful. The problem is not your personality or your work ethic. The problem is that you are trying to run a high-performance life on default settings. Most people believe that the answer to their chaos is more motivation. They wait for a burst of inspiration, a sudden urge to get organized, or a wave of discipline to carry them through. This is a lie. Motivation is a feeling, and feelings are volatile. You cannot build a skyscraper on a foundation that shifts with the weather. The people you admire, the ones who seem to have it all together, are not superhuman. They simply do not rely on willpower to get through the day. They rely on systems. This chapter is your wake-up call. It is time to stop gambling on your mood and start engineering your life. The invisible script running your life. Right now, you are running a script that you did not write. Humans are wired to follow the path of least resistance. In the absence of a deliberate plan, your brain will always choose the easiest option. If you do not design that path, the world will design it for you. Your phone, your environment, the demands of your boss, and the expectations of your family are currently dictating your actions. You wake up and immediately react to notifications. You spend your prime energy responding to other people's emergencies. You drift through the day, busy but going nowhere, and collapse at the end of it, wondering why you made no progress on the things that actually matter to you. This lack of design forces you to pay a heavy price known as the chaos tax. This is the invisible cost of disorganization that drains your bank account, your clock, and your spirit. Think about the time you waste looking for files, passwords, or keys. Consider the mental energy you burn trying to remember what you were supposed to do next. Think about the late fees, the missed opportunities, and the frantic last-minute rushes that produce mediocre work. This tax is levied on every single hour of your day. It forces you to context switch constantly, shattering your focus and leaving you with a brain that feels like a web browser with 100 tabs open. Without a system, you are trapped in the loop of restarting. You know this pattern well. You get fed up with your own mess, so you make a massive resolution. You buy a new planner, clean your desk, and vow that this time will be different. You run on pure adrenaline and willpower for 3 days, maybe a week. But then, a crisis hits. You get tired. The motivation fades. Because you had no structure to catch you when your energy dropped, you crash back into your old habits. You feel like a failure, so you avoid thinking about it until the pain becomes too great and you restart the cycle again. This loop is not just exhausting, it is futile. You cannot fix a structural problem with an emotional solution. The compound interest of mediocrity. If you continue to live this way, the consequences will not be a sudden explosion. It will be a slow, agonizing drift into a life you never chose. Chaos compounds. A missed deadline today becomes a lost client tomorrow. A forgotten promise to a friend today becomes a fractured relationship next year. Tiny daily compromises accumulate into a mountain of regret. You risk waking up in 10 years to realize that while you were busy reacting to the noise of the moment, your true potential withered on the vine. You will watch others, perhaps with less talent but better systems, pass you by. They will get the promotions, the freedom, and the accolades simply because they were reliable while you were chaotic. The most dangerous damage, however, is internal. Every time you set a goal and fail to reach it because of poor organization, you teach your brain a terrible lesson. You teach yourself that you are unreliable. You erode your self-trust. This identity damage is catastrophic. When you no longer believe your own word, you stop setting big goals. You shrink your ambition to match your inability to execute. You begin to identify as the person who is always late, always scattered, always apologizing. This low self-trust sabotages new opportunities before you even begin them, because deep down, you expect to fail. Your relationships and your health are also in the line of fire. People get tired of hearing excuses. Lateness and flakiness communicate disrespect, regardless of your intentions. In your professional life, disorganization is the ceiling on your growth. You might be brilliant, but if you cannot be trusted to deliver without hand-holding, you will never be given the reins of leadership. Meanwhile, the chronic stress of living in a state of perpetual catch-up floods your body with cortisol. You are never fully present with your loved ones because your mind is always racing, trying to track the dozen loose ends you left dangling. This is not a way to live. It is a way to slowly burn out. The high cost of someday. You might be telling yourself that you will fix this later. You are just in a busy season right now. Once things calm down, you will get organized. This is the trap of someday mode. Admit the truth to yourself. You have been saying, "I'll fix this later," for years. The busy season never ends because your lack of systems creates the busyness. By delaying, you are normalizing mediocrity. You are accepting a standard of living that is far below what you are capable of. Not choosing a system is still a choice, and it is a choice that comes with a compounding price tag. The cost of inaction increases every day you wait. As you get older, your responsibilities grow. You might take on a mortgage, a more demanding job, or a family. If you cannot manage your current load, you will be crushed by the weight of the future. Opportunities have expiration dates. The business idea you have been sitting on, the skill you have been meaning to learn, the trip you have been planning. These windows do not stay open forever. The longer you wait to install a life operating system, the more repair work you will have to do later. You are digging a hole that gets deeper with every chaotic week. There is also a profound emotional toll to watching yourself fail repeatedly. It creates a quiet, gnawing frustration. You walk around with a mask on, pretending everything is fine, while internally you are screaming. You feel like a fraud. You know you are smart, yet your results look like the work of an amateur. This dissonance creates a spiral of shame. To avoid the shame, you distract yourself with more noise and cheap entertainment, which leads to more chaos, which leads to more shame. It is time to break this cycle before it breaks you. Building your life operating system. This book is not about giving you a few tips to tidy up your desk. It is about building a comprehensive life operating system. By the time you finish this blueprint, you will have installed simple, robust systems for your attention, your time, your habits, your work, your money, and your learning. You will move from being a passenger in your own life to being the pilot. You will create a weekly planning rhythm that gives every day a clear shape, ensuring that you never again wake up wondering what you should be doing. You will design deep work blocks that actually survive contact with reality, allowing you to produce work you are proud of. The goal is to experience the first taste of real control. This is not the tight-chested anxiety of trying to micromanage the universe. It is the calm confidence of knowing that your systems have your back. You will notice a dramatic reduction in mental clutter. The constant background hum of, "I feel like I'm forgetting something," will vanish, replaced by a trusted external structure that holds your obligations for you. You will see evidence that a new identity is possible. You will not just think about being organized, you will see the proof in your finished tasks and clear calendar. You are going to prove to yourself that you are capable of change. You will complete this book and actually implement the core systems. You will track clear wins. You will finish projects that have been gathering dust. You will show up on time. These wins will serve as undeniable evidence that you are not stuck with your old patterns. You are not your past behaviors. You are simply a person who was operating without a manual. Now you have the manual. The blueprint for total control. We are going to build this system in a specific order, designed to prioritize leverage. We start with the foundation and build upward. The first step is to guard attention. Before you can manage your time or your goals, you must stop the bleeding. If you cannot control where your eyes and mind go, you cannot control anything else. We will audit how your devices are hijacking your focus and redesign your digital environment to make distraction inconvenient. We will set boundaries that stop other people from treating your time as an all-you-can-eat buffet. Once your attention is secure, we move to step 2, design time. You will run an audit to see where your hours actually go, stripping away the delusion of, "I don't have time." You will use time blocking to give every part of your day a specific job, and you will learn the art of today-level clarity to ensure you hit the ground running every morning. With time and attention under control, we proceed to step 3, map identity and goals. You cannot hit a target you have not defined. We will clarify exactly who you want to be in 10 years and cascade that vision down into actionable daily targets. Step 4 is to build the habit engine. We will choose keystone habits that stabilize your days and stack them so they happen automatically. We will track these habits to create a visible scorecard of your progress. Step 5 involves installing workflows and support systems. You will build a second brain to store information so your biological brain is free to think. You will create standard operating procedures for recurring tasks to eliminate decision fatigue, and you will set up wealth loops that automate your financial and intellectual growth. Finally, step 6 is to iterate forever. You will learn to run a weekly review to identify bottlenecks and tweak your systems, ensuring they evolve as you do. There is a reason for this specific sequence. You must control inputs before you can manage outputs. Attention is the gateway. If you try to build habits while your phone is still screaming at you every 3 minutes, you will fail. Once attention is guarded, you need structured time to do the work of identity building. Once you know who you are, you can build habits that reinforce that identity. And finally, workflows and iteration act as the glue that holds it all together. This is not a random collection of advice. It is a logical architecture for a high-performance life. Engineers versus gamblers. In the world of personal achievement, there are two types of people: those who think like gamblers and those who think like engineers. The losers think like gamblers. They believe that success is a matter of getting lucky with a burst of inspiration. They treat discipline as a mood that they hope will strike them. When they fail, they say, "That's just how I am." They view their flaws as permanent character traits, rather than design flaws in their approach. They rely on brute force and trying harder, which is a strategy that has a 100% failure rate over the long term. Winners think like engineers. They view systems as leverage. They know that a good process beats raw effort every time. They take full ownership of their environment, their calendar, and their rules. They do not rely on feeling good to do good work. They rely on a schedule that makes doing the work the default option. They treat self-respect not as a gift, but as a non-negotiable outcome of following their own blueprint. They understand that if the system breaks, you do not blame the operator, you fix the machine. You have to choose your side. Staying systemless is choosing the loser's path. It is choosing to be a victim of circumstance, dragged around by the whims of the world. Deciding to build this blueprint is choosing to become the engineer of your life. It is a commitment to stop hoping for a better future and start constructing it. You are going to commit to running this blueprint for at least 30 days as a personal test. You are going to stop drifting and start driving. The first step in this engineering process is to secure the perimeter. You cannot build a fortress if the gates are wide open and thieves are looting your supplies. Your most precious resource is currently leaking out of 1,000 tiny holes, stolen by algorithms designed by the smartest people on the planet. To get your life back, you first have to take your brain back. It is time to look at the device in your pocket and decide who is actually in charge. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe to Grow to the Top and activate notifications to receive more self-improvement tips that will supercharge your growth. And make sure to give this video a thumbs up and share it with your friends. It really helps the channel grow. Thank you for your support. Chapter 2. Guard attention. You are bleeding. You cannot see it, and you certainly cannot feel it in the traditional sense, but you are hemorrhaging the most valuable resource you possess. It is happening right now. It happened 5 minutes ago when you checked a notification that didn't matter. It happened this morning when you opened your eyes and immediately scrolled through the curated lives of strangers before your feet even touched the floor. You are not losing time. You are leaking attention. And unlike money, which you can earn back, or energy, which you can replenish with sleep, attention that is spent is gone forever. If you feel like your brain has turned into a fragmented mess, like a web browser with 100 tabs open that are all frozen, you are not alone, but you are in danger. You are trying to build a skyscraper on a foundation of quicksand. You can have the best goals in the world, the most detailed roadmap, and the highest ambition, but if you cannot hold your focus on a single object for more than 10 minutes without reaching for a dopamine hit, you are finished before you start. This chapter is about stopping the bleeding. It is about taking the device in your pocket, which is currently acting as a slot machine, and turning it back into a tool. The currency of your life. Everything you want to achieve, every skill you want to master, and every relationship you want to deepen requires a deposit of focused attention. Think of attention as your primary currency. Time is just the container. Attention is the fuel. You can sit at your desk for 8 hours, but if your attention is scattered across email, Slack, social media, and the news, you have accomplished 0 hours of deep work. You have simply existed in a state of high-stress, low-value busyness. The modern world is not designed to help you focus. It is designed to strip mine your attention for profit. The smartest engineers and behavioral psychologists in the world are paid millions of dollars to keep you scrolling. They know exactly how to trigger your brain's reward system. They know that a red notification badge creates a psychological itch you have to scratch. They know that an infinite scroll removes the stopping cue that tells your brain to move on. When you try to fight this industrial-grade distraction machine with raw willpower, you are bringing a knife to a nuclear war. Winners understand that attention is finite. They treat it like a bank account with a strict budget. They know that every time they switch contexts, from a report to a text message and back again, they pay a tax. This switching cost destroys your IQ and kills your momentum. It takes an average of 23 minutes to get back into a state of deep flow after an interruption. If you are interrupted every 10 minutes, you are mathematically incapable of doing deep work. You are permanently stuck in the shallows, reacting to noise instead of creating value. The myth of the multitasking master. You might believe you are the exception. You might think you are good at multitasking, that you can juggle a conversation, an email draft, and a podcast all at once. This is a delusion. The human brain cannot multitask. It can only task switch. You are just toggling between activities rapidly, doing all of them poorly. Multitasking is the illusion of productivity without the results. It feels like work because it is exhausting, but it produces nothing of substance. There is also a pervasive myth that you need more self-control. You tell yourself that next time, you just won't look. You will just be stronger. This is a loser's strategy. Self-control is a biological resource. It is a battery, and it drains throughout the day. Every time you resist the urge to check your phone, you burn a little bit of that battery. Eventually, you hit zero and you binge. You cannot win a war against distraction by relying on a resource that depletes every time you use it. You do not need more discipline. You need a better environment. You need to stop fighting your brain and start trapping it in a maze where the only way out is to do the work. Engineering friction. The core strategy we are going to deploy is called friction engineering. Human behavior is governed by the path of least resistance. We do what is easiest. Currently, your environment is designed so that distraction is frictionless. Your phone is in your hand. The app is one tap away. The notification is right in your face. Conversely, doing deep work is high friction. It requires setup, thought, and effort. To win, we have to invert this dynamic. We must make distraction agonizingly difficult and focus the default option. This starts with the device that runs your life. We are going to implement the tool, not toy phone design. Your phone is a miracle of technology, but you are using it like a pacifier. To reclaim your attention, you must reframe this device as a hammer. A hammer sits in a toolbox until you need to drive a nail. It does not beep at you. It does not offer you entertainment. It is a tool. To make this shift, you need to audit your digital environment. Look at your screen time stats. The numbers do not lie. They will show you exactly where your attention is leaking. Once you identify the parasites, the social apps, the games, the news feeds, you have to make them hard to reach. Remove them from your home screen. Bury them in folders. Better yet, delete them and only access them from a desktop computer. If you have to log in via a browser every time you want to check a feed, you add friction. That 3-second delay is often enough for your rational brain to kick in and ask, do I really want to do this? Notifications are the enemy of depth. There is no reason for a news app to interrupt your dinner. There is no reason for a generic email to buzz your wrist while you are driving. Turn them off. All of them. Leave only the emergency channels open, calls from family or critical alerts. You should check your phone on your schedule, not when a silicon chip decides it wants your eyes. The sanctuary of focus. Your physical environment is constantly whispering to you. If your phone is sitting on your desk, even if it is face down and silent, a part of your brain is actively working to ignore it. That is cognitive load you cannot afford to waste. The most effective move you can make is to physically remove the temptation. When you enter a deep work block, put the phone in another room. Put it in a drawer. Charge it in the kitchen. The simple act of having to stand up and walk to get your fix is usually enough friction to keep you in your chair. You must design a default path for your workspace. When you sit down, the most obvious, easy thing to do should be the work. This means clearing the clutter. It means closing the 20 tabs you have open and leaving only the one you need. It means laying out your materials the night before. If you sit down at 9 a.m. and have to spend 15 minutes finding your notes and clearing off coffee cups, you have already lost the battle for momentum. You want to be able to sit down and slide immediately into the groove. Visual cues are powerful. A simple "start here" note on your desk can act as an anchor. When your mind starts to wander, your eyes catch the note, and you are gently nudged back to the task. This is not about being a monk. It is about being an architect. You are building a space where focus is the natural state and distraction is the anomaly. The fortress of boundaries. Once you have secured your environment, you must defend it against other people. The world will happily consume every second of your time if you let it. There is a modern disease of always-on availability. We believe that being professional or being a good friend means replying instantly. This is false. Constant availability destroys your ability to do anything worth talking about. If you are always reachable, you are never truly present. You need to install attention boundaries. This means defining clear windows when you are available for communication and clear windows when you are not. You are not being rude, you are being effective. When you protect your focus, the quality of your work goes up and the quality of your interactions improves because you are actually paying attention when you do engage. Communicate these boundaries without apology. Tell your team, your family, or your clients that from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. you are in deep work mode and will not be responding to messages. At first, this will feel uncomfortable. You will fear you are missing out or letting people down. But people respect boundaries. They respect people who value their own time. By training others to expect a delayed response, you free yourself from the tyranny of the urgent. The distraction parking lot. Even with a perfect environment and strong boundaries, your own brain will try to sabotage you. You will be 10 minutes into a difficult task when suddenly you remember you need to buy toothpaste or you have a brilliant idea for a different project. This is your brain looking for an escape hatch from the discomfort of hard work. If you act on that impulse and open a new tab to buy toothpaste, you have broken the seal on your focus. Instead of acting, use a distraction parking lot. Keep a notebook or a simple piece of paper next to you. When an intruder thought pops up, write it down, capture it, then immediately return to your work. You are telling your brain, I have heard you, I have recorded it, and we will deal with it later. This closes the loop without breaking your flow. You will find that when you review the list later, half of the urgent things you wrote down were just noise. Anchoring the state. You can train your body to trigger your mind. Just as an athlete has a warm-up ritual that tells their body it is time to perform, you can use body-based anchors to signal deep work. It could be a specific playlist, a cup of black coffee, or a quick stretch. If you repeat this ritual every time you sit down to focus, your brain will start to associate the action with the state of concentration. Eventually, the ritual alone will be enough to drop you into the zone. This is about conditioning. You are Pavlov, and you are also the dog. You are training yourself to respond to cues that you control rather than cues that Silicon Valley controls. You are taking the remote control back. The sound of silence. When you successfully implement these systems, the result is a profound reduction in noise. You will cut the pointless scrolling by huge margins. You will find that you have hours of time you didn't know existed. But the most important outcome is the feeling of calm. The frantic, fractured feeling of a scattered mind begins to heal. You start to experience the satisfaction of, I actually finished that. You will protect 2 or 3 hours of deep focus on most days. This might not sound like much, but 3 hours of true, uninterrupted focus is worth more than 10 hours of distracted, half-hearted work. This is where the magic happens. This is where careers are made, where skills are built, and where complex problems are solved. You will move from a life of reaction to a life of creation. However, be warned. When you first implement these boundaries, you might swing too hard. You might try to go completely analog and cut yourself off from the world entirely. This usually leads to a binge. Do not try to starve yourself of all stimulation. We are aiming for a sustainable diet of focus, not a starvation fast. Set a baseline that you can live with. Allow yourself designated times for low-value scrolling if you must, but keep it contained. Treat it like junk food, fine in small, rare doses, but deadly as a staple diet. You might also face pushback. People who are used to your instant availability will test your new fences. They will try to guilt you into responding. Stand firm. Calmly repeat your new protocol. I check email at 11 and 4. I'll get back to you then. Consistency is key. If you fold once, you teach them that your boundaries are fake. If you hold the line, they will adjust. The laser needs a target. By guarding your attention, you have stopped the bleeding. You have reclaimed the energy and focus required to move mountains. You have turned your phone from a master into a servant, and you have built a fortress around your mind. You now possess a powerful, concentrated beam of energy. You are ready to work. But a laser beam swinging wildly in the dark is dangerous. Having focus is useless if you do not know where to point it. You can be incredibly focused on the wrong things. You can spend hours in a state of deep flow, working on a task that does not move the needle for your life. You have the fuel, but you do not yet have the engine or the map. Now that you are awake and paying attention, we need to look at the structure of your days. We need to take this raw resource of attention and pour it into a vessel that will shape it into something tangible. You have stopped the leak, but now you must become the architect of the hours themselves. If you don't, your newfound focus will just be a more efficient way to waste your life. It is time to look at your calendar and realize it is either a shield or a surrender. Chapter 3, Design Time. Show me your calendar, and I will show you the future you are currently building. I don't want to see your to-do list, your vision board, or your list of New Year's resolutions. Those are nothing more than wish lists. Your calendar is the only document that tells the truth. It is the ledger of your life. If you say your priority is building a business, but your calendar is filled with random meetings and 3 hours of white space that usually gets eaten by Netflix, then building a business is not your priority. Comfort is. Most people treat their calendar as a tool for scheduling appointments with other people. They put in the dentist, the weekly team sync, and the call with their mother. The rest of the time is left blank. They call this freedom. They tell themselves they will use that open time to get things done. But you and I both know what actually happens in that white space. It does not become a canvas for your masterpiece. It becomes a vacuum. And because nature abhors a vacuum, that space gets filled with the path of least resistance. It gets filled with urgent emails that aren't actually important. It gets filled with quick favors for other people. It gets filled with the entropy of daily life. You are currently living as a passenger in your own day. You wake up and immediately start reacting. You react to the alarm, react to the notifications you failed to block, and react to the demands of your inbox. By 2 p.m., you are exhausted, yet you have a sinking feeling that you haven't actually moved the needle on anything significant. This is not a time management problem. You have the same 24 hours as the people you admire. This is a design problem. You are trying to build a life without a blueprint, and the result is a structure that collapses under the slightest pressure. The brutal truth of the audit. You cannot engineer a system for a reality you refuse to see. Before we can design your ideal week, we have to look at the wreckage of your current one. You need to conduct a time and energy audit. This is not a fun exercise. It is a cold, hard look in the mirror. For the next few days, you are going to log exactly what you do, not what you plan to do, but what you actually did. You will likely discover a horrifying truth. You are not working nearly as much as you think you are. You might sit at your desk for 8 hours, but your audit will reveal that you spent 2 hours in deep work, 3 hours in low-value meetings, and 3 hours transitioning, scrolling, or getting ready to work. You are busy, yes, but you are not effective. Crucially, you must track your energy, not just your minutes. You will notice patterns. You might find that at 10 a.m., you are sharp, focused, and capable of complex problem solving, but by 3 p.m., you are a zombie who can barely answer an email. Yet, if you look at your current behavior, you are probably wasting your 10 a.m. brilliance on Slack messages and trying to do heavy lifting at 3 p.m. when your brain is offline. This is poor design. It is like trying to drive a race car with the parking brake on. The trap of fake productivity. The audit will also expose the most dangerous enemy of high performance, fake productivity. This is the busy work that makes you feel like a responsible adult while ensuring you remain stuck. It is the hour spent color-coding your file folders. It is the time spent rereading emails you have already read. It is the endless researching that is actually just procrastination in a tuxedo. Your brain loves fake productivity. It loves it because it is easy, it offers immediate closure, and it carries zero risk of failure. It feels good to check a box, even if that box was reorganized desktop icons. Real work, the kind that compounds into wealth and skill, is scary. It is ambiguous. It requires deep cognitive strain. Because it is hard, your brain will do anything to avoid it, including convincing you that clearing your inbox is the most important thing you can do right now. You must learn to ruthlessly filter your tasks. Ask yourself, does this activity directly improve my skills, my income, or my leverage? If the answer is no, it is likely fake productivity. You need to minimize, delegate, or delete these tasks. You are judged by your results, not by how tired you are at the end of the day. The calendar as a contract. Once you have faced the reality of your time leaks, it is time to stop listing tasks and start blocking time. A to-do list is a canyon of infinite depth. You can toss tasks into it forever and never hit the bottom. A calendar is a finite container. It forces you to make hard choices. It forces you to acknowledge that a 2-hour task cannot fit into a 30-minute window. This is the art of time blocking. You are going to give every hour of your day a specific job. You are no longer working from 9 to 5. You are doing deep work on Project X from 9 to 11. You are processing admin and comms from 11 to 12. You are taking a break from 12 to 1. When you block your time, you reduce the cognitive load of deciding what to do. The decision has already been made by your past self, the architect, and now your present self, the worker, just has to execute. Treat these blocks as sacred contracts. If you had a meeting with a high-profile client, you wouldn't blow it off because you didn't feel like it or because you wanted to reorganize your bookshelf. Why do you treat appointments with yourself with so much less respect? When you see a block on your calendar, it is a command, not a suggestion. Today-level clarity. The most critical pivot point in your time design happens before the day even begins. You must never, under any circumstances, start your morning by asking, "What should I do today?" If you ask that question at 8 a.m., you have already lost. The morning is for execution, not deliberation. You need today-level clarity. This means that before you close your eyes at night, you have already designed the next day. You have looked at your calendar, identified the open blocks, and slotted in the 3 most important tasks that will move the needle. You write them down. You leave them on your desk. When you walk into your workspace the next morning, there is no friction. There is no wondering. There is simply the first block and the first task. You sit down and you go. This practice saves you from the morning drift. It protects your best energy from being hijacked by the first emergency that pops up on your phone. You are proactive by default because the plan was set when you were calm and rational, not when you were groggy and reactive. The myth of the creative genius. I know what you are thinking. You are thinking that this sounds robotic. You are thinking, I work better without a plan. I need spontaneity to be creative. Let me dismantle this myth right now. Chaos is not a prerequisite for creativity, it is a hindrance. If you are constantly scrambling to find files, remembering appointments you missed, and putting out fires, you have no mental bandwidth left for creativity. Structure creates the container for flow. By automating the mundane parts of your day, knowing exactly when you will check email, when you will eat, when you will do admin, you free up your mind to focus entirely on the creative problem in front of you. The most prolific artists and thinkers in history were not chaotic, they were rigorously disciplined. They showed up at the same time, every day, and did the work. They didn't wait for the muse. They built a system that forced the muse to show up. Designing for human beings. However, there is a trap in time blocking that you must avoid: the overload. When you first start this, you will be tempted to pack every minute with high-intensity work. You will schedule 8 hours of back-to-back deep work. You will fail by noon, and you will feel like garbage. You are a biological organism, not a machine. You have fluctuating energy levels. You need to eat, you need to use the restroom, and you need to transition between tasks. A good engineer builds buffers into the system. You must leave white space between blocks. You must schedule time for the unexpected, because the unexpected will happen. If your day is packed so tight that a single 10-minute phone call throws the whole thing off the rails, your system is too fragile. Use catch-up blocks. Schedule an hour on Friday afternoon specifically for all the things that went wrong during the week. If nothing went wrong, you get to leave early. If things did go wrong, you have a safety valve. This keeps the stress levels manageable. You are designing for resilience, not just maximum theoretical output. The rhythm of the week. As you master the daily block, you will start to see the week as a unit of design. You can begin to theme your days. Maybe Mondays are for internal management and deep organization. Tuesdays and Wednesdays are for your core creative output or high-value production. Thursdays are for meetings and external calls. Fridays are for wrapping up and planning the next week. When you batch similar tasks together, you minimize the switching costs we discussed in the previous chapter. Your brain gets into a groove. If you spend all of Thursday on calls, you don't have to ramp your social energy up and down 5 times a day. You stay in that mode. If Tuesday is a no-meeting day, you can dive into the Mariana Trench of deep work without fear of interruption. This rhythm creates predictability. Predictability lowers stress. When you know that you have a dedicated block for admin coming up on Friday, you stop worrying about it on Tuesday. You can mentally file it away, knowing it will be handled. Your mind clears. The background noise fades. The calendar as a filter. Eventually, your calendar becomes your primary filter for reality. When a new opportunity, request, or shiny object appears, you don't just say yes or maybe. You look at the grid. You look for the empty block. If the block doesn't exist, neither does the yes. This forces you to reckon with the opportunity cost of your choices. If you want to say yes to a new project, you have to physically remove something else from the calendar to make room. You can't just pile it on top. This visual representation of your finite time is the greatest tool you have for learning to say no. It stops you from overcommitting. It protects your reputation because you stop making promises you can't keep. You will start to feel a shift. The drift will stop. You will end your days with a sense of completion, not just exhaustion. You will look back at your week and see a solid wall of bricks laid, one after another, building the structure of your ambition. You will realize that you are no longer hoping to find time. You are making it. But here is the catch. You can have the most perfectly engineered calendar in the world. You can have your deep work blocks color-coded and your buffers in place. You can be a master of time design. But none of it matters if you don't know why you are doing it. Efficiency is useless if you are sprinting in the wrong direction. You can be the most productive person on earth, checking off boxes at record speed, and still end up living a life that feels hollow and foreign. We have secured your attention. We have designed your time. Now, we have to face the terrifying question that most people avoid their entire lives. We have to open the map and figure out where this machine is actually going. Because if you don't decide who you are becoming, your systems will just make you very efficient at becoming a stranger. Chapter 4, Identity Map. Speed is irrelevant if you are running in the wrong direction. You can be the most efficient person in the room, waking up early, crushing your to-do list, and managing your inbox like a wizard, yet still end up somewhere you hate. This is the phenomenon of efficient drift. It is the tragedy of climbing a ladder with intense focus and discipline, only to reach the top and realize it is leaning against the wrong wall. Up until this point, we have focused on the mechanics of your day. We have stopped the bleeding of your attention, and we have engineered your time. You are now capable of execution, but execution without direction is just noise. It is just a faster way to get lost. The question you must answer now is not how do I get more done, but done in service of what? Most people skip this step. They jump straight to the goals. They want $1 million, a promotion, or a finished project. But goals are external. They are things you get. Systems are things you do. Identity is who you are. If your systems and your goals are fighting your identity will win every single time. You cannot outperform your own self-image. If you view yourself as a disorganized person who is trying to get organized, you will eventually revert to chaos because that is your baseline setting. To make your systems stick, we have to rewrite the code of the person running them. The invisible script. Your behavior is a lagging indicator of your identity. You do not do what you want to do. You do what you believe a person like you does. If your internal script says, "I am bad with money," you will subconsciously sabotage your savings even if you set up the perfect budget. If your script says, "I am not a finisher," you will abandon projects right before they launch, no matter how much time you blocked on your calendar. This is why willpower fails. Willpower is trying to force yourself to do something that conflicts with your identity. It is exhausting. True change happens when you align your actions with a new story about who you are. When you truly view yourself as a reliable builder, you don't need willpower to finish a task. You finish it because that is simply what you do. It would feel weird not to. Winners define who they are before they define what they do. They don't chase random achievements to impress strangers on the internet. They build a life that fits their own internal map. They understand that the goal is not just to have more, but to become more. If you get the success without becoming the person who can handle it, you will lose it. We see this all the time with lottery winners and flash-in-the-pan celebrities. They had the outcome, but they didn't have the identity to sustain it. Designing your future self. To fix this, we need to build a long-term identity vision. This is not a vision board full of pictures of yachts and watches. It is a written definition of the character you intend to embody in the next 5 to 10 years. You need to project yourself forward and look at that future version of you. How do they handle stress? How do they make decisions? What is their reputation among their peers? You must write this down in the present tense. I am the type of person who. Use vivid, emotional language. Do not write, I want to be successful. That is vague nonsense. Write, I am a disciplined learner who masters difficult skills. I am a present partner who listens without distraction. I am a creator who ships work, even when it is scary. From this vision, you will extract your identity pillars. These are the 3 to 5 core traits that will define your next decade. They are the load-bearing walls of your new personality. They might be things like relentless executor, calm strategist, or deep thinker. These pillars are not about what you own. They are about how you operate. They serve as a filter for every decision you make. When you are faced with a choice, you check it against your pillars. Does this action align with the relentless executor pillar? If not, you don't do it. The cascade effect. An identity vision is useless if it stays in the clouds. You can spend all day dreaming about being a visionary leader, but if you spend your actual day answering low-value emails and scrolling social media, you are hallucinating, not visualizing. We need to bridge the gap between the 10-year vision and the 9 a.m. meeting. We do this with a goal cascade. The goal cascade is a mechanism that forces your long-term intent down into your daily reality. It works like a waterfall. You start with your identity pillars. You ask, if I am this person, what must I achieve in the next year to prove it? This gives you your yearly outcomes. Then you break it down further. You cannot work on a year-long goal today. It is too big. So you ask, to hit this yearly outcome, what must I finish in the next 90 days? This gives you your quarterly projects. Now we're getting closer to the ground. A 90-day project is specific. It has a deadline. But we go deeper. You ask, to finish this project in 90 days, what must I get done this week? Now you have weekly targets. Finally, you wake up in the morning and ask, to hit my weekly target, what must I do today? This chain of logic connects your mundane Tuesday morning tasks directly to your 10-year vision. You are no longer just writing a report. You are executing a daily action that completes a weekly target, which feeds a quarterly project, which secures a yearly outcome, which validates an identity pillar. Every small action becomes charged with long-term meaning. You are not just ticking a box. You are casting a vote for your future self. The myth of the arrival. There is a dangerous trap you must avoid, and that is the "I'll be happy when" trap. You tell yourself, I'll figure out who I am after I make the $1 million, or I'll start acting like a professional once I get the title. This is backward. You do not get the result to build the identity, you build the identity to get the result. If you wait for external validation to tell you who you are, you will be waiting forever. Even if you hit the milestone, you will feel like an imposter because your internal story hasn't changed. You have to claim the identity now before the evidence exists. You have to act like the person you want to be until the evidence catches up with you. This is why we focus on identity first. If your goal is to write a book and you identify as a writer, you write every day. The book is just a byproduct. If you identify as a wannabe who hopes to get lucky, you write only when you feel inspired and you never finish. The identity drives the behavior, and the behavior drives the result. Casting your votes. Every time you execute a system we have discussed in this book, you are casting a vote. When you block your time and actually stick to it, you are voting for the identity of someone who keeps promises to themselves. When you put your phone in the other room to do deep work, you are voting for the identity of someone who values focus over distraction. These votes accumulate. At first, the new identity feels like a costume. You feel like you are faking it. That is normal. Keep casting votes. Eventually, the pile of evidence becomes so high that your brain has no choice but to accept the new reality. You look at your track record, the weeks of planned days, the finished projects, the guarded attention, and you realize, wait, I actually am this person. This is how you avoid the drift. You constantly pressure test your life against your map. You look at your calendar and ask, does this schedule reflect my identity pillars? If your pillar is health first, but your calendar shows 0 time for movement and 60 hours of sedentary work, you are lying to yourself. You need to adjust the system to match the map. The discomfort of growth. As you align your systems with your identity, you will feel friction. It will feel uncomfortable to say no to things that don't fit your map. It will feel strange to hold boundaries that the old you would have collapsed on. This discomfort is not a sign that you are doing it wrong. It is a sign that you are growing. You are shedding your old skin. The old you, the reactive, scattered, default mode you, is fighting for survival. It wants you to go back to the comfort of the chaos. It wants you to stay in the someday loop. But you have a map now. You know exactly where you are going, and you know the price of admission. You will reach a point where acting out of alignment with your new identity feels physically repulsive. You will feel a visceral wrongness when you waste a morning on doom scrolling, not because you should be working, but because that is not who you are anymore. That is when you know the shift is real. When your default setting changes from drift to design, you have won. From map to engine. You now have a clear vision of your future. You have the pillars that define your character. You have a cascade that turns 10-year dreams into today's to-do list. You have aligned your time and attention to support this new identity. You are standing in the driver's seat, hands on the wheel, looking at a map that leads directly to the life you want. But a map is not movement. You can stare at a map all day and never leave the driveway. You can have the clearest destination in the world, but if the car doesn't start when you turn the key, you are going nowhere. You need something that drives you forward automatically, something that keeps the wheels turning even when you are tired, unmotivated, or stressed. You need an engine that runs on something more reliable than excitement. We are about to build the machinery that makes your progress inevitable. We are going to take the actions derived from your identity map and weld them into your nervous system so they happen without you even thinking about them. It is time to look under the hood. Chapter 5, Habit Engine. You wake up, the alarm goes off, and immediately a courtroom drama begins in your head. The prosecution argues that you are tired, that the bed is warm, and that you worked hard yesterday. The defense argues that you have goals, that you promised yourself you would get up, and that you need to make progress. This trial lasts for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, maybe 20. By the time you finally put your feet on the floor, you are already exhausted. You have spent your prime mental energy litigating against yourself. This is the daily negotiation. It is the single biggest leak of energy in the human experience. Most people live their entire lives in this state of constant internal debate. They treat every task, planning the day, doing the deep work, reviewing the finances, as a choice that must be made in the moment. They ask, do I feel like doing this right now? The answer, almost always, is no. You will rarely feel like doing the hard things that produce the life you want. If you rely on your mood to dictate your actions, you will lose. You will be consistent only when life is easy, and you will collapse the moment pressure is applied. The solution is not to get better at arguing with yourself. The solution is to stop the trial from happening in the first place. You need to build a habit engine. The end of negotiation. The habit engine is the machinery that runs your day when your motivation dies. And make no mistake, your motivation will die. It is a volatile gas, not a solid fuel. It evaporates when you are stressed, tired, or busy. If your blueprint relies on you feeling excited, it is a bad blueprint. We are going to take the most critical behaviors in your life, the ones that actually move the needle, and turn them into automatic routines. We are going to weld them into your nervous system so that doing them requires less energy than skipping them. When a behavior becomes a habit, the negotiation ends. You don't decide to brush your teeth, you just do it. It's part of the script. We are going to apply that same level of automaticity to your success. This matters because reliability is the currency of high performance. Inconsistent effort produces inconsistent results. You cannot build momentum if you are starting and stopping every 3 days. Furthermore, other people, your boss, your clients, your family, do not trust your moods. They trust your systems. They trust that you will deliver regardless of how you feel. When you build a habit engine, you become the person whose behavior is predictable. You become a force of nature. The floor, not the ceiling. The gap between winners and losers is not defined by what they do on their best days. On a good day, when the sun is shining and the coffee hits just right, anyone can be a superstar. The gap is defined by what happens on the bad days. It is defined by what you do when you have a headache, when the project is falling apart, and when you feel like quitting. Your habit engine provides a floor. It ensures that even on your absolute worst day, you still hit a minimum standard of performance. You still plan the day. You still do 20 minutes of deep work. You still review your metrics. You don't have to be amazing every day, but you must be non-zero. The engine keeps the chain moving, preventing the rust of inactivity from setting in. Designing keystone habits. We are not going to try to change 20 things at once. That is a recipe for disaster. We are going to focus on keystone habits. These are the lead dominoes. They are the unique behaviors that, when executed, make everything else in your life easier or unnecessary. For example, A daily planning session is a keystone habit. If you do it, your focus improves, your anxiety drops, and your execution speed increases. One habit fixes 3 problems. Deep work is another keystone. If you secure 2 hours of focused output, the rest of the day can be reactive chaos, and you will still have moved forward. You need to identify 1 to 3 keystone habits that align with the identity map you built in the previous chapter. Do not pick habits because they sound cool or because a billionaire does them. Pick the ones that stabilize your specific life. If you are chaotic, your keystone is planning. If you are stagnant, your keystone is study or production. Externalizing willpower. Once you have chosen your habits, you must stop trusting your brain to remember them. Your brain is a terrible office manager. It forgets things the moment stress spikes. You need to externalize your willpower. This means moving the trigger for the habit out of your head and into your environment. Use cues that you cannot ignore. If you want to journal in the morning, leave the notebook open on top of your laptop keyboard the night before. You literally cannot start working without touching the habit. If you want to read, place the book on your pillow. Use alarms on your phone, not to wake you up, but to signal a shift in activity. It is 9 a.m. This is the deep work block. Treat your environment as a second brain. When you walk into a room, the layout should scream at you to do the right thing. If your environment is neutral, you have to generate the willpower to start. If your environment is designed, it pulls you into the action. You want to make it harder to back out than to follow through. The mechanics of stacking. The easiest way to install a new habit is to piggyback it onto an old one. This is called habit stacking. You already have dozens of reliable habits. You wake up, you pour coffee, you open your computer, you take a shower. These are anchors. They happen every day without fail. You are going to use the formula. After current habit, I will new habit. After I pour my coffee, I will open my planner. After I sit at my desk, I will put my phone in the drawer. After I close my laptop for the day, I will write down tomorrow's top 3 tasks. This works because it removes the question of when. You don't have to find time for the new habit. The old habit triggers it automatically. The end of one action becomes the starting gun for the next. You are building a chain reaction. The feedback loop. You cannot manage what you do not measure. You need a visible scoreboard. This is where habit tracking comes in. It is not about the data, it is about the psychological feedback loop. When you mark an X on your calendar or check a box in your app, you get a tiny hit of dopamine. You get immediate evidence that you succeeded. More importantly, the tracker serves as proof of identity. Remember, we are rewriting your internal script. Every time you check that box, you are casting a vote for your new identity. You look at the streak of 10 days in a row and you think, I am the type of person who is consistent. That belief is more powerful than any motivational speech. The myth of discipline. You might be thinking, this sounds great, but I just don't have the discipline. Let me stop you right there. That is a lie. You do not need more discipline. You need a better system. The people you think are disciplined are usually just people who have designed their lives so they don't have to use willpower. They don't fight the urge to check their phone. They leave it in the other room. They don't debate whether to work. They have a habit stack that puts them in the chair before they can object. Relying on discipline is a loser's plan. It assumes you will always be strong. The habit engine assumes you will be weak, tired, and lazy, and it is designed to make you win anyway. The never miss twice rule. There is a trap called the what the hell effect. You miss one day of your habit and you think, well, the streak is ruined. I blew it. What the hell? I might as well take the week off. This is perfectionism masquerading as despair. It is a childish way to view progress. You will miss days. Life happens. Emergencies happen. The goal is not to be a robot. The goal is to be a professional. Professionals slip, but they recover immediately. We follow the rule, never miss twice. If you miss your planning session on Tuesday, you must do it on Wednesday. Missing once is an accident. Missing twice is the start of a new habit, a bad one. The streak is not the point. The identity is the point. One vote for the lazy identity does not undo 50 votes for the disciplined identity unless you let it spiral. The minimum viable habit. The biggest reason people fail is that they try to be heroes. They commit to 2 hours of deep work a day. Then a day comes when they only have 20 minutes. Because they can't do the full 2 hours, they do zero. They choose nothing because they can't have everything. You need a fallback version for every keystone habit. This is the minimum viable habit. It is the version that is so small, so easy that you have no excuse to skip it. If your habit is plan the day, 15 minutes, your fallback is write down one priority, 30 seconds. If your habit is deep work, 90 minutes, your fallback is focus on one task, 10 minutes. On the bad days, you do the fallback. You keep the habit alive. You protect the neural pathway. You prove to yourself that you showed up even if the output was small. A terrible workout is infinitely better than a missed workout because it preserves the pattern. Piggybacking on momentum. A smart engineer uses existing energy. Do not try to start a difficult habit during your lowest energy window. If you are a zombie at 3 p.m., do not schedule your intense learning block then. Piggyback on your natural momentum. If you have high energy in the morning, stack your hardest habits there. If you get a second wind after a shower or a walk, place a habit there. Use the transition rituals we talked about in the time design chapter as triggers. The moment you switch contexts is the perfect time to insert a small, positive behavior. The engine is running. When you get this right, your life starts to feel like it is on rails. You wake up, and the morning routine happens on autopilot. You sit down, and the work block starts by default. You end the day, and the planning ritual occurs without a debate. You stop burning energy on decisions. You stop wondering if you're going to make progress. You know you're going to make progress because the machine is running. You have removed the variable of you from the equation. The system is doing the heavy lifting. You will start to see results that seem magical to the outside world. People will ask how you stay so consistent. They will ask where you find the motivation. You will smile because you know motivation has nothing to do with it. You built an engine, and now you are just steering. But there is a limitation to habits. Habits are excellent for personal behaviors, things you do with your body and your mind. They are great for the internal game. But your life is not just internal. You have external inputs. You have files, emails, projects, invoices, and a mountain of data coming at you every day. You can have the best habits in the world, but if your external world is a disorganized disaster, you will still drown. A habit can get you to sit at your desk, but it cannot tell you where you saved that critical document or what the next step is on a complex project. For that, we need a different kind of system. We need to stop using your brain as a hard drive and start building a structure that remembers everything for you. It is time to externalize your mind. Chapter 6, Workflows. Your brain is a high-performance processing unit, but it is a terrible hard drive. Right now, you are walking around with a mental backpack full of rocks. Each rock is an uncompleted task, a vague idea, a reminder to buy toothpaste, a worry about an upcoming deadline, or a mental note to call your mother. You are carrying this weight everywhere you go. You carry it into your deep work blocks, you carry it into your conversations, and you carry it into your sleep. This is why you are tired. It is not the work that is exhausting you, it is the act of holding the work in your head. Cognitive science calls this cognitive load. Every open loop in your mind consumes a specific amount of glucose and processing power. When you try to focus on a complex problem while simultaneously trying to remember to pay the electric bill, you are effectively running a high-end video game on a computer that is also trying to download the entire internet in the background. The system lags, the frame rate drops, you freeze. This chapter is about closing those loops. It is about building an external structure, a system of workflows that holds your life for you. We are going to stop treating your biological brain as a storage locker and start treating it like the factory floor where the work actually gets done. We're going to build a second brain, write standard operating procedures for your life, and install anti-decision systems. The goal is simple. You should never have to wonder how to do a recurring task or where a piece of information is. It should just be there, ready for you to execute. The lie of "I will remember that." The biggest lie you tell yourself multiple times a day is "I'll remember that." You won't. And even if you do, the cost of remembering is too high. When you rely on your memory to track your commitments, you create a state of constant, low-level anxiety. Your brain knows that memory is fallible, so it keeps pinging you about the task at inappropriate times just to make sure you haven't dropped the ball. This is why you remember you need to send an email while you are trying to fall asleep. You need a second brain. This is not a sci-fi concept. It is simply a trusted external system where you record everything. It could be a digital app like Notion or Evernote, or it could be a physical notebook. The tool does not matter. The trust matters. You must trust that if you put an idea into this system, it is safe. It will not be lost. It will be there when you need it. When you have a fully functioning second brain, you experience a profound sense of mental weightlessness. You can focus entirely on the task at hand because you know that everything else is captured and organized. You are no longer juggling. You are simply picking up one ball at a time, handling it with precision, and putting it down. Stop reinventing the wheel. Look at your life closely, and you will realize that you are not doing new things every day. You are mostly doing the same things over and over again. You pay the same bills, you pack for similar trips, you write similar emails, and you execute similar projects. Yet, most people treat every occurrence of these tasks as a brand new emergency. They rely on their memory to figure out the steps every single time. This is madness. It is a waste of energy, and it guarantees mistakes. You need life SOPs. In the business world, an SOP, standard operating procedure, is a document that explains how to do a specific task. In your life, an SOP is a checklist that saves you from having to think. When you have to pack for a trip, you shouldn't be standing in your bedroom wondering what you need. You should open your travel SOP and simply follow the list. When you need to do your monthly financial review, you shouldn't be scrambling to remember which accounts to check. You should follow the money review SOP. Checklists are not constraints. They are liberation. When the process is documented, you don't have to use your creative energy to remember the steps. You can fly through the administrative drudgery on autopilot, preserving your mental battery for the work that actually requires your genius. Professionals use checklists. Pilots use them. Surgeons use them. Amateurs wing it and wonder why they crash. The death of decision fatigue. Every decision you make, no matter how small, chips away at your willpower. What should I wear? What should I answer to this email? When should I schedule this meeting? By 2 p.m., you have made hundreds of micro decisions, and your decision-making muscle is fatigued. This is why you make bad choices in the evening. You are depleted. To fix this, we build anti-decision systems. We look for decisions that you make repeatedly, and we make them once, forever. We create defaults. We decide that we check email only at 11 a.m. and 4 p.m. That is no longer a choice you have to make daily. We decide that all meetings happen on Thursdays. We decide that we always respond to inquiry emails with a specific template. By removing these thousands of tiny choices, you protect your energy for the 3 or 4 massive decisions that actually determine your future. You stop sweating the small stuff because the small stuff has been automated by a rule you created when you were thinking clearly. Constructing the repository. To build your second brain, you need to choose a home for your data. Do not overcomplicate this. You need a place for tasks, things to do, a place for notes, things to remember, and a place for projects, outcomes to achieve. Keep it simple. If your system takes more than 5 seconds to open and capture a thought, you won't use it. The most critical habit here is relentless capture. The moment a task enters your consciousness, whether it's a request from a boss or a sudden idea for a gift, you must capture it. Do not tell yourself you will write it down later. Write it down now. Get it out of your head and into the inbox of your second brain. This clears your RAM. Once it is captured, you can get back to what you were doing with zero anxiety. You then need a processing ritual. Once a day, or at least once a week, you must go into that inbox and sort the items. Assign them to projects, give them due dates, or file them as reference notes. If you capture but never process, your second brain just becomes a digital hoarder's nest. The system works only if you keep the flow moving. Documenting your life. Start your SOP library today. You don't need to sit down and write 100 manuals. Just pick the one recurring task that annoys you the most. Maybe it is preparing your taxes, or maybe it is the weekly grocery run. Next time you do that task, keep a notepad open. Write down the steps as you do them. Step 1, open bank app. Step 2, download PDF statements. Step 3, upload to folder. Congratulations, you have written an SOP. The next time you do that task, use the list. You will immediately notice two things. You will do it faster, and you will feel less resistance to starting. The friction of figuring it out is gone. Over time, build up a library of these checklists. Create templates for emails you send frequently. Create a template for how you set up a new project folder. These documents are living things. If you find a better way to do the task, update the SOP. If a step becomes obsolete, delete it. You are the engineer of your own life, constantly tweaking the code to make it run smoother. The template defense. One of the most powerful forms of an anti-decision system is the template. If you find yourself typing the same email response more than 3 times, turn it into a template. If you find yourself setting up the same spreadsheet structure for every new client, make a template. Templates prevent the blank page paralysis. Starting from zero is hard. Starting with a structure that is 80% complete is easy. You just fill in the blanks and hit send. This applies to your creative work too. If you are a writer, have a template for your article structure. If you are a coder, have a snippet library. Stop starting from scratch. The weekly scrub. There is a danger here. If you dump everything into your second brain and never clean it up, it will become a graveyard of good intentions. You will stop trusting it because you won't be able to find anything. This is why the system maintenance is non-negotiable. Once a week, usually during your weekly review, which we will cover in depth later, you must scrub the system. Archive completed projects. Delete tasks that are no longer relevant. Organize your notes. This takes 10 or 15 minutes, but it keeps the machinery oiled. It ensures that when you look at your task list, you are seeing reality, not history. The professional mindset. You might worry that all this structure will kill your spontaneity. You might think that living by checklists makes you a robot. This is the amateur's fear. The amateur believes that freedom is the absence of structure. The professional knows that structure is the prerequisite for freedom. When your workflows are dialed in, you don't spend your Saturday morning stressing about whether you paid the bills. The system handled it, or the system reminded you to do it in 5 minutes on Friday. You are free to be fully present with your friends, your hobbies, or your rest. You are free to be spontaneous because the baseline of your life is secure. You will stop dropping balls. You will stop missing deadlines. You will stop having those panic moments where your stomach drops because you forgot something important. You will become the person who is always prepared, always organized, and always calm. This is not because you are a genius. It is because you have a system that makes it impossible for you to be chaotic. From order to growth, we have now built a fortress of order. You have guarded your attention. You have designed your time. You have clarified your identity. You have installed habits to automate your behavior. And now you have workflows to manage the complexity of your external life. You are stable. You are reliable. You are in control. But stability is not the end goal. Stability is just the platform. Now that you aren't drowning in chaos, now that you aren't fighting fires every hour of every day, you have the capacity to do something much more interesting. You have the capacity to build. You have freed up massive amounts of mental energy and time. The question is, where do you invest it? If you just use this new efficiency to do more busy work, you have missed the point. We need to take this surplus and channel it into engines that compound. We need to talk about the two things that, when handled correctly, grow exponentially and buy your ultimate freedom. We need to talk about your money and your mind. Chapter 7, Wealth Loops. You can have the most disciplined morning routine in existence. You can have a color-coded calendar that would make a project manager weep with joy. You can have a phone that is locked down like a fortress. But if you are lying awake at 3 a.m., staring at the ceiling because you do not know if you can make rent next month, none of that matters. Financial chaos is a universal solvent. It dissolves focus. It dissolves creativity. It dissolves your ability to think long-term. If you are constantly firefighting with your bank account, you are operating with a cognitive deficit. Studies show that financial stress drops your effective IQ by several points. You are literally dumber when you are worried about money. This is not a moral judgment. It is a biological reality. Your brain interprets financial scarcity as a survival threat, hijacking your prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for planning and deep work, and redirecting all energy to immediate survival. You cannot build a legacy when you are in fight-or-flight mode. This chapter is not about getting rich quick. It is not about crypto schemes or stock tips. It is about applying the same systems thinking we used for your time and attention to your resources. We are going to build a wealth loop. This is a mechanism that stabilizes your financial baseline so your brain can relax, and then uses that stability to fuel a learning engine that increases your value. Money buys you the time to learn. Learning increases your earning power. Increased earning power feeds your money system. The loop closes, and the flywheel begins to spin. The anxiety tax. Most people handle money the same way they handle time, reactively. They get paid, the money hits their account, and then they spend it until it is gone. If there is a surplus, they might save it, but usually there isn't. Every purchase is a decision. Every bill is a surprise. This lack of system creates an anxiety tax. You pay this tax in the form of stress, strained relationships, and the inability to take risks. You cannot win if you're playing defense forever. You need a simple money system. The goal of this system is to make your financial life boring. Boring is good. Boring means predictable. Boring means you do not have to use your limited willpower to decide whether to save money. The core principle here is automation. If you have to remember to transfer money to savings, you will fail. If you have to manually pay every bill, you will eventually miss one. You need to set up your banking so that the moment income arrives, it is automatically sorted. It flows into your fixed costs, your savings, and your investments before you even have a chance to see it. You are engineering scarcity for your discretionary spending. You force yourself to live on what is left rather than saving what is left. The trap of more income. There is a pervasive myth that the solution to financial chaos is simply more income. You tell yourself, I'll get organized when I make 6 figures. This is a lie. If you cannot manage $1,000, you cannot manage 10,000. Money problems do not disappear with scale, they just get bigger zeros attached to them. I have met people earning $500,000 a year who are living paycheck to paycheck because their lifestyle inflated faster than their systems could handle. You must build the pipes before you turn up the water pressure. If your financial pipes are leaking, if you have no tracking, no automated savings, and no budget, pumping more money through them just creates a bigger mess. You need to build the structure of a wealthy life before you have the bank balance of a wealthy life. The only asset that matters. Once your money system is automated and the anxiety tax is paid off, you have freed up mental bandwidth. Now you must invest that bandwidth into the only asset that is truly inflation-proof, your skills. In the modern economy, you are paid for the difficulty of the problems you can solve. If you can only solve easy problems, you will be paid little. If you can solve complex, rare, and valuable problems, you will be paid well. The mechanism for moving from easy problems to complex problems is the learning pipeline. Most adults stop learning the day they leave school. They might read a book occasionally or watch a documentary, but they do not have a system for upgrading their hardware. They rely on osmosis, hoping they pick up skills just by showing up to work. This is the path to stagnation. To build a wealth loop, you must treat learning with the same rigor as you treat your job. It is not a hobby. It is the R&D department of your life. The consumption delusion. We need to make a sharp distinction here. Watching educational YouTube videos is not learning. Listening to podcasts while you do the dishes is not learning. Reading business books without taking notes is not learning. That is entertainment. It might make you feel smart, but it does not change your behavior or increase your output. Real learning is a contact sport. It requires a pipeline: input, processing, and application. You must choose a high-leverage skill, something that aligns with your identity pillars, and attack it. You schedule time for it on your calendar, just like a meeting. During that block, you are not passively consuming, you are studying, you are taking notes, you are struggling with concepts. But the pipeline is not finished until you apply it. You have not learned a coding language until you build an app. You have not learned copywriting until you write a sales page that converts. You have not learned negotiation until you save money on a deal. The loop requires output. If you are just consuming information without producing results, you are mentally obese, stuffed with facts but unable to move. Closing the circuit. Here is where the magic happens. You have a simple money system that handles your survival on autopilot. You have a learning pipeline that systematically upgrades your skills. Now you link them. You use the stability from your money system to buy resources for your learning. You buy the course, you hire the coach, or you simply buy the time to study by reducing your hours at a low-value job. You invest capital to build human capital. Then, you take those new skills and you apply them to the market. You solve harder problems. You negotiate a raise. You switch to a higher-paying career, or you start a side business. Your income goes up. When your income goes up, you do not increase your lifestyle. You pour that new capital back into the system. You increase your automatic savings. You invest in even better learning resources. This is the wealth loop. It is a self-reinforcing cycle. Money feeds skills, skills feed money. Over time, this compounds. You stop trading time for money and start trading value for money. The bucket strategy. To make this practical, you need to stop looking at your money as one big pile. When all your money sits in one checking account, you have no clarity. You look at the balance, see a big number, and feel rich, so you buy dinner. Then the rent hits, and you feel poor. This emotional roller coaster is exhausting. You need buckets. At a minimum, you need 3. First, the operations bucket. This is for fixed costs: rent, utilities, subscriptions. This money is already spent, it just hasn't left the building yet. Second, the future bucket. This is for savings, investments, and your emergency fund. This money is sacred, it buys your freedom. Third, the guilt-free bucket. This is what is left. This is for dining out, gadgets, and fun. When you separate your money, you separate your emotions from your math. You know exactly how much you can spend without sabotaging your future. You stop feeling guilty about buying a latte because you know the retirement contribution has already happened. Just-in-time learning. When building your learning pipeline, avoid the trap of just-in-case learning. This is when you learn something because you think it might be useful someday. You study Spanish even though you have no plans to go to Spain. You learn about blockchain even though you work in landscaping. This is a hobby, not a system. Switch to just-in-time learning. Identify the bottleneck in your current project or career. What is the one skill that is stopping you from getting to the next level right now? Is it public speaking? Is it Excel? Is it sales? Learn that. Apply it immediately. This ensures that your learning always has a return on investment. It keeps the loop tight. You learn a thing, you use the thing, you get a result. The compound effect of competence. The beauty of the wealth loop is that it gets easier over time. In the beginning, the flywheel is heavy. You are scraping together pennies to save. You are tired after work and struggling to learn the basics of a new skill. It feels like nothing is happening. but skills compound. Learning one thing makes it easier to learn the next thing. Financial stability compounds. Interest gathers on interest. Your reputation compounds. People start to know you as the person who solves hard problems. Eventually, the loop starts to spin under its own power. You wake up one day and realize you have options. You can quit the job you hate. You can take a month off. You can invest in a risky venture because your baseline is secure. This is true freedom. Freedom is not having $1 million in the bank. Freedom is knowing that you have a system that can generate wealth and solve problems, no matter what happens to the economy. It is the ultimate form of self-reliance. The danger of the plateau. There is a danger, however. Once you set these systems up, they work so well that you might get complacent. You automate your savings, you learn a few skills, you get a raise, and then you stop. You coast. You let the lifestyle creep in. You stop feeding the learning pipeline because you are comfortable. Comfort is the enemy of the wealth loop. The moment you stop learning, you start dying. The economy changes, skills become obsolete, inflation eats your savings. If you are not actively maintaining and upgrading your loop, it will degrade. You have now built the entire machine. You have the foundation of attention. You have the structure of time. You have the compass of identity. You have the engine of habits. You have the workflow of organization. And you have the fuel of the wealth loop. You are fully operational. But a machine, no matter how well designed, exists in a chaotic universe. Parts wear out. Conditions change. The road you are driving on shifts. If you treat this blueprint as a static thing, something you set and forget, it will eventually fail. You cannot just build the system, you must become the mechanic who tends to it. We need to talk about how to keep this machine running, not just for a month, but for the rest of your life. We need to talk about the art of eternal repair. Chapter 8. Iterate Forever. There is a dangerous fantasy that exists in the mind of almost every person who picks up a book about productivity or systems. It is the fantasy of the done state. You believe that if you just work hard enough, if you just build the perfect schedule, set up the perfect app, and design the perfect morning routine, you will cross a finish line. You think you will reach a point where the system is finished, the chaos is permanently conquered, and you can put your life on cruise control forever. I am here to tell you that this is a lie. There is no finish line. There is no version of your life where you set it and forget it. If you build a magnificent engine and never change the oil, never check the belts, and never tune the timing, that engine will explode. It is not a matter of if, it is a matter of when. The universe is governed by entropy. Order naturally degrades into chaos. Your systems are not monuments made of stone. They are living organisms that exist in a constantly changing environment. If you treat your systems as rigid cages that must be obeyed perfectly forever, you will fail. You will get a new job or get sick or have a child, and the system will break. Then you will blame yourself. You will say the system failed, or worse, that you failed. But the problem isn't the system, and it isn't you. The problem is that you stopped acting like an engineer and started acting like a statue. The secret to making this blueprint work for decades, not just days, is hidden in 2 words: iterate forever. The decay of the static. Imagine you build a perfect bridge. It is strong, efficient, and handles the traffic perfectly. But over time, the river shifts, the soil erodes, the volume of traffic triples. If you do not reinforce that bridge, if you do not adapt it to the new reality, it will collapse. Your life is exactly the same. The routine that worked perfectly for you when you were single and 25 will suffocate you when you are married and 35. The deep work block that made you a superstar in your entry-level job will not be enough when you are a manager. Systems decay without maintenance. This is the law of nature. If you do not actively maintain your infrastructure, it quietly falls apart. You usually don't notice the decay at first. It starts with small things. You miss a planning session here. You ignore a notification there. Your second brain starts to fill up with unorganized notes. Slowly, the friction returns. The anxiety creeps back in. Most people interpret this friction as a sign that they are broken. They think, I guess I'm just not organized. They throw the whole system in the trash and go back to chaos until the pain becomes too great, and then they look for a new system. This is the cycle of the amateur. The professional understands that friction is not a stop sign, it is data. It is a signal that the system needs an update. The scientist and the lab. To survive the long game, you must fundamentally shift your relationship with failure. In the old way of thinking, a missed workout or a wasted afternoon was a moral failing. It was evidence that you were lazy. In the system's mindset, a failure is simply a data point. It is feedback. You must view your life as a laboratory. You are the scientist, and your behaviors are the experiment. If an experiment fails, if you plan to wake up at 5 a.m. and you slept until 8 a.m., you do not beat yourself up. A scientist doesn't cry when the chemical reaction doesn't happen. The scientist asks, why? Was the alarm too quiet? Did I go to bed too late? Is 5 a.m. unrealistic for my current biology? Winners iterate. They update their systems relentlessly. They treat their life like software that is constantly in beta. They are always shipping version 2.0, then version 2.1, then version 3.0. Losers try to ship version 1.0, and if it has a single bug, they quit coding entirely. You are going to adopt the mindset of iterative life design. You are going to stop trying to be perfect and start trying to be better than you were last week. The heartbeat of the system. So how do you actually do this? How do you prevent the decay and keep the evolution going? You need a ritual. You need a recurring event on your calendar that forces you to stop doing the work and start looking at the work. We call this the weekly review. The weekly review is the glue that holds this entire book together. Without it, everything we have discussed, attention, time, identity, habits, workflows, will eventually drift apart. You must set aside a specific time, preferably the same time every week, to meet with yourself. Sunday afternoon or Friday morning usually works best. This is a non-negotiable meeting with your future self. During this time, you are not executing tasks. You are the CEO looking at the company's performance. You are looking at the gap between what you planned to do and what you actually did. That gap is where the gold is. That gap tells you the truth about your life. The script for evolution. You do not need a complex spreadsheet for this. You need a simple script that you run every single week. It starts with a reality check. Look at your calendar from the past week. Look at your habit tracker. Did you hit your deep work blocks? Did you stick to your attention boundaries? Be honest. The data is right there. Then, ask the diagnostic question, where did the system break? If you missed your writing habit 3 days in a row, why? Do not accept "I was lazy" as an answer. Dig deeper. Maybe you scheduled it at 4 p.m. when your energy is low. Maybe your environment was noisy. Maybe you didn't have a clear output defined. Once you identify the break, you identify the fix. This is the most critical step. You are looking for a micro tweak. Do not try to overhaul your entire life because you had one bad week. That is emotional overreaction. Look for the smallest possible adjustment that could solve the problem. If you didn't go to the gym because you couldn't find your shoes, the tweak is not, "I will become a disciplined monk." The tweak is, "I will put my shoes by the door the night before." If you kept getting distracted during deep work, the tweak is, "I will put my phone in a different room." These are small, mechanical adjustments. They are boring, but they work. The trap of the overhaul. There is a temptation during the review to burn everything down. You had a bad week, so you decide to rip up your calendar, change your app, and start a new diet all at once. You must resist this urge. When you change too many variables at once, you break the scientific method. You don't know what worked and what didn't. Stick to 1 to 3 micro tweaks per week. This allows you to test them. If you move your shoes to the door and you still don't go to the gym, you know the shoe location wasn't the root cause. Now you can test the next variable. Maybe it's the time of day. Maybe it's the workout itself. By isolating the variables, you eventually find the combination that unlocks the lock. This approach relieves the pressure. You don't have to get it right immediately. You just have to get it slightly less wrong than last week. You are iterating your way to success, one small tweak at a time. The change log. It is incredibly helpful to keep a record of these tweaks. Call it your system's change log. It can be a simple note in your second brain. Week of Octa 4th, move deep work to morning. Result, success. Week of Octa 11th, tried to ban all social media. Result, failed, binged on Tuesday. Adjustment, set 30-minute window instead. This log prevents you from repeating the same mistakes. It shows you your evolution. When you look back over 6 months, you will see that you are not the same person you were when you started. You have patched the holes in your boat. You have upgraded the engine. You have streamlined the aerodynamics. You are running a completely different machine. The paradox of busyness. The most dangerous trap you will face is the paradox of busyness. When you are overwhelmed, stressed, and behind on your work, the first thing you will want to cancel is your weekly review. You will tell yourself, I don't have time to review. I need to work. This is the equivalent of saying, I am driving too fast to look at the map. When you are busy is exactly when you need the review the most. The review is what calms the storm. It's what allows you to look at the pile of work, ruthlessly delete the fake productivity, and realign with your priorities. If you skip the review, you are choosing to remain in the chaos. You are choosing to be reactive. Even if you only have 10 minutes, do a mini review. Look at the calendar, pick one thing to fix, and plan the next day. Never let the chain break completely. The ultimate freedom. When you embrace the philosophy of iterate forever, you unlock a new level of freedom. You are free from the fear of imperfection. You know that your system doesn't have to be flawless. It just has to be adaptable. You stop looking for the magic bullet solution because you realize that the solution is a process, not a product. You become a system designer. This becomes part of your identity. When things go wrong, and they will go wrong, you don't panic. You don't spiral into self-loathing. You get curious. You look at the wreckage and say, interesting, the system failed under this specific load. How do I reinforce it for next time? This mindset makes you anti-fragile. The more challenges you face, the better your system becomes because every challenge reveals a weakness that you can fix. You are constantly patching, upgrading, and refining. Over a period of years, this results in a life structure that is nearly indestructible. The living blueprint. We have covered a lot of ground. We have audited your life, guarded your attention, designed your time, mapped your identity, built your habits, organized your workflows, and set up your wealth loops. And now you have the maintenance ritual to keep it all running. You have the complete blueprint. You have every component necessary to take control of your existence and force yourself to get your life together. But a blueprint, no matter how detailed, is just a piece of paper. A map is not the territory. You can understand every concept in this book intellectually and still wake up tomorrow in the exact same mess you are in today. There is one final gap we have to bridge. It is the gap between knowing and being. It is the gap between having a plan and living it. You are standing at the edge of the cliff, looking at the bridge you have built. It looks strong, it looks reliable, but you haven't stepped onto it yet. You are still standing on the side of chaos, holding the manual. The final step is not about adding more systems. It is not about learning more theory. It is about a fundamental shift in how you exist in the world. It is about taking all these separate parts and fusing them into a single, cohesive motion. It is time to stop building the machine and start driving it. It is time to turn the key. Chapter 9. Live the Blueprint. You are currently holding a map to a buried treasure, but you are still standing in your living room. This is the most dangerous moment in the entire process. You have read the words. You have understood the concepts. You have likely nodded your head in agreement as we dismantled the myths of multitasking, willpower, and someday thinking. You possess the knowledge. But knowledge by itself is heavy. It is dead weight. Knowledge does not change your life. It only changes your awareness of how much your life needs to change. There is a massive chasm between knowing the path and walking the path. Most people treat books like this one as a form of entertainment. They read about productivity to feel productive. They read about systems to feel organized. Then they close the book, get a dopamine hit from finishing it, and immediately pick up their phone to doom scroll for 45 minutes. They return to the default settings we fought so hard to expose in the first chapter. Do not let that be you. You did not come this far to remain a tourist in your own potential. You built a blueprint. A blueprint is not a suggestion, it is a command. It is a set of instructions that, if followed, forces a structure to rise from the ground. The only thing missing now is the labor. The only thing missing is the decision to stop admiring the machine we have designed and to actually turn the key. The arsenal you now possess. Let's look at what you have actually built here. This is not a random collection of life hacks. It is a cohesive operating system designed to override your biological defaults. You started by realizing that your attention is your life force, and you learned to guard it with the ferocity of a dragon guarding gold. You know now that if you don't control your inputs, you cannot control your outputs. You moved on to design your time, turning your calendar from a reactive list of obligations into a proactive tool for architecture. You stopped asking, "What should I do?" and started executing the plan your past self created. You dug deep into your identity, realizing that you cannot outperform your own self-image. You mapped out exactly who you are becoming and aligned your goals to that vision. You built a habit engine to automate your best behaviors, ensuring that you make progress even on your worst days. You externalized your mind with workflows and a second brain, freeing your cognitive bandwidth for strategy rather than storage. You connected your money and your learning into a wealth loop that compounds over time. And finally, you committed to iterating forever, treating your life as a laboratory where failure is just data for the next upgrade. This is a formidable arsenal. You are no longer unarmed in the battle against entropy. You have a system for everything that used to trip you up. The chaos tax has been repealed. The question is no longer, can I get my act together? The question is, will I use the tools I have holding in my hands? The quiet confidence of control. When you actually live this blueprint, the feeling is not one of frantic energy or manic productivity. It is a feeling of quiet, boring, wonderful control. You wake up in the morning and you don't have to panic. You don't have to negotiate with yourself. You know exactly what the first move is because you decided it last night. You execute the first block. You execute the second block. When a crisis hits, and it will, you don't spiral. You have a system for that. You have a buffer in your calendar. You have a workflow for handling emergencies. You respond with the calm precision of a pilot going through a checklist rather than the flailing of a passenger falling out of a plane. This control bleeds into your self-respect. This is the hidden payload of the entire book. Self-respect comes from keeping promises to yourself. Every time you say you will do a deep work block and you actually do it, you stack a brick of self-trust. Over weeks and months, this builds a fortress of confidence. You stop worrying about whether you are good enough because you have a mountain of evidence that you are reliable. You know that if you set a goal, it is as good as done because your systems make the outcome inevitable. The ripple effect on others. One of the greatest lies about productivity is that it is selfish. People think that if you guard your time and attention, you are shutting people out. The opposite is true. Chaos is selfish. When you are disorganized, you are late. You forget commitments. You are physically present but mentally absent, checking your phone under the dinner table because you are worried about an email you forgot to send. When you live the blueprint, you become a better human being to the people around you. When you are with your friends or family, you are fully there. Your phone is not buzzing because you curated your notifications. Your mind is not racing because your second brain is holding all the details. You offer the gift of your undivided attention, which is the rarest and most valuable gift you can give in the modern world. You become a pillar of reliability. People stop seeing you as the person who means well but is a mess. They start seeing you as the person who delivers. You become the rock. Your consistency stabilizes the people around you. By holding your boundaries, you teach others to respect your time, and paradoxically, this makes them value the time they get with you even more. You are not just getting your own life together, you are raising the standard for everyone in your orbit. Breaking the ceiling. With these systems running, you will find that your capacity expands. Things that used to crush you now feel manageable. You can handle a bigger workload, a more complex project, or a more demanding season of life without breaking. This is because you are no longer carrying the load with your raw willpower. The systems are carrying the weight. You will finish the projects that have been haunting you for years. The novel, the business plan, the home renovation. These stop being someday fantasies and become scheduled realities. You will close the loops. The relief of finishing is profound. It frees up energy that has been trapped in guilt and procrastination. You will also see your skills and opportunities compound. Because you are running a wealth loop, you are getting smarter and more capable every week. You are not just working, you are upgrading. This positions you for opportunities that you currently cannot even imagine. When you are reliable, skilled, and organized, the world tends to throw opportunities at you because it knows you won't drop them. The compound interest of life. The beautiful thing about this blueprint is that it gets easier the longer you do it. Right now, at the beginning, it requires effort. You have to consciously set up the blocks, fight the friction, and build the habits. It feels like pushing a heavy flywheel. But eventually, the flywheel picks up speed. Your habits move from effortful to automatic. Your identity shifts, so doing the work feels natural. Your systems get smarter because you are iterating on them every week. You remove the friction. You streamline the workflows. Suddenly, you are getting 10 times the results with half the effort you used to spend just trying to stay afloat. This is the compound interest of systems. The gap between you and the chaotic version of you widens every single day. You are not just maintaining, you are accelerating. The first brick. So, where do you start? You do not start by trying to overhaul your entire life in the next hour. That is the amateur's mistake. You start by laying one brick. Choose one system to activate today. Just one. Maybe it is the attention audit. Maybe it's the time block. Do not overthink it. Pick the area that is causing you the most pain right now and apply the system. Make one visible change. Rearrange your phone home screen to hide the slot machines. Clear your desk and put a "Start Here" note on it. Write down your top 3 tasks for tomorrow on a physical piece of paper. Do something that changes your physical reality, proving to your brain that this is not just a mental exercise. Tell someone, send a text to a friend, write a note to yourself. I am installing a new operating system. Make it real. The cost of the old way. I want you to take a moment and visualize what happens if you do nothing. Imagine you close this book, put it on the shelf, and go back to your life exactly as it was yesterday. Visualize 5 years of that. 5 years of waking up tired and reactive. 5 years of someday goals that never happen. 5 years of the chaos tax draining your bank account and your spirit. 5 years of looking in the mirror and knowing you are capable of more, but never figuring out how to unlock it. That future is real. It is waiting for you. It is the default path. It requires 0 effort to get there. You just have to keep drifting. Now visualize the other path, the path where you run the blueprint. Visualize 5 years of compounding skills, finished projects, and deep focus. Visualize the person you become when you trust yourself completely. Visualize the calm, the control, and the freedom. That future is also real, but it is not free. It costs you your old habits. It costs you your excuses. It costs you the comfort of being a victim of your circumstances. The final push. You are closer than you think. You do not need to be a different person to start this. You just need to be the person who takes the next step. You don't need to feel motivated. You just need to follow the instructions you have already learned. This book is not a souvenir. It is a manual. It is a tool. Use it. Wreck it. Write in the margins. Test the systems. Break them. Fix them. And make them yours. The world is filled with people who have potential. The graveyards are full of potential. Potential is cheap. Systems are rare. Be the person who builds the system. Stop waiting for the perfect time. The perfect time is a myth. The only time you have is the messy, imperfect, chaotic now. That is where the work happens. That is where the life is built. You have the blueprint. You have the tools. You know what to do. Turn the page on your old life. Step into the next hour as the architect, not the passenger. The machine is ready. The engine is cold, but it is waiting for a spark. Start.